Before you start, I just want to ask a question about the last part of the shiur from Friday. We went from the tipa, the avlad, the Sius avlad, to the idea of firmament, and to the mashal of firmament. Firmament. Yeah. And I didn't understand exactly. It's between the end of the page and the beginning of the other one. I didn't understand the connection between the two. And also you said of Chochmah, it's a present in essence, but not present as a presence.
How do we, what are we splitting over there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, if we have a little comment explaining, we have to begin from the very beginning. To be able to understand, even to approach this concept, present and not present, at the same time. Which is completely counterintuitive in the world. Either it's here or it's not here.
It's an open contradiction.
And the key to the answer is, it's not the world that creates it. If it were the world creating it, that would be impossible. Either it's there or it's not there. Either it was made or it wasn't made. How does the world make anything? What's the idiot's concept? How do things develop? One rock hits another rock. Right? There is not a real origin, a real mocker, as we discussed now. There is no reality. Everything is accidental. And then in that model, of course, there is no such thing as if something happens accidentally, it doesn't exist before the accident happens. That's what an accident means. But something that comes into being intentionally, so then the intent exists before it happens. And there's a whole process from the origin of the intent, where that's sourced. Why the intent? Because there's some kind of an essential truth behind it. That this should happen. So that goes through many stages until it comes to a stage what's called Chochmah, where it's present but not present. It has not yet materialized. You follow what I'm saying?
So I understand this much as far as concerned with tipa, but not the but not the idea of firmament. It speaks about the waters of the firmament. Is this in reference to what we say in davening? The waters above the waters.
I get you. Okay. Now the principle of the Nokia, the firmament, is that this is a mashal for the Ayin of how things are in Chochmah and how things come into being. In Chochmah, everything is present. But
everything is present?
Present. But it's not affirmed. It's present due to the intent, to a higher perspective. Water. When water freezes, it becomes a rock. Form rock. When the water is flowing, do you see a rock in it? Is there a potential rock in it? but it has to go to a completely different stage. But that rock exists in the flowing water as well. In what form does it exist?
This idea of Ayin, not yet.
In what form does it exist? Your words. You lose the words. It exists, but it doesn't really exist. In a non-existence.
Right. That's the whole idea of Chochmah.
Right.
Is it okay to think of that as existing in potential, or is that not really accurate?
Well,
Or useful?
this motion from the water seems to be a very clear and tangible motion. But it's not really accurate in the broader sense of the word. What does it mean it's not accurate? It can lead to misconception because we look at the water as a presence. This presence can be in various stages, in various conditions. Under certain conditions, it is flowing. On certain conditions, it is frozen. It's the same water. The fact that it freezes has nothing to do with the water. It has to do with the condition in which it is. Therefore, this is not really a motion of Chochmah and Bina. Because the whole principle that in Chochmah there are these midas and all that is not due to the Chochmah, to the potential, it's due to where it's coming from. There's a greater and deeper reality behind the Chochmah itself. This is why there is an inherent element of midas. Everything in Chochmah has a message. What does it have a message? It's just about flowing waters don't have a message. They are what they are. And you put them into a freezing in sub-zero temperature, it freezes. Like you said, in potential. We're not talking about potential. Potential means, let me explain why this. Potential means that this element itself, as it is, unrelated to anything else, not in order to fulfill its mission, in order to complete its message, just as it is in and of itself, its own mitzias, has potential to change. What's potential?
That's not the idea of ice in the world.
No, that's not what we are talking about. I'll give you another tangible motion. Money, a lot of money, is potentially a building, a house, whatever. Money is potentially a house. Can money build a house? Not in a billion years will money build a house. When is money potential money in the hand of a human being who understands what's valuable? Oh, that's a house. You understand? This is not Chochmah. It's completely different. That's not a potential. If money is in human hand, then potentially he can build a house. But it's not a potential. This is all intended. Potential means it's developed on its own. It's not going to develop on its own. We have had this word potential come up many times. I always try to explain that this is missing the point. Because potential actually means that it exists in that very entity. In that very entity, nothing exists. All right. Daniel. All right. The Rebbe doesn't let go, and he goes a little further, deeper into this. What we are discussing now specifically is, okay, the real Hishtalshelus starts at Bina, at the Bina level. This is where there is already Hiskalus Amidus, which means that you can identify Midus. And he goes on to explain, because only in Bahasogod there is Midas, but actually, really, in Chochmah also there is Midas, as we explain all the time. There cannot be Midas in Bina if there is no Midas in Chochmah.
Oh boy, I must have missed that.
Let's take this to its core. We say all the time, Chochmah is like a sight. I want to ask a question. A sight, for instance, you see a panorama. On this panorama, it's a whole expanse. There's the sky and the sky itself, many forms, many aspects, and then there is the ground and the trees and the human beings, mingling around and so forth. That's a real living world. And you see this whole panorama. Is there a difference whether you're looking at this panorama itself or you're looking at the perfect picture of it?
Oh yeah, sure. Perfect picture of it.
You understand? A perfect rendition of an artist. They made a living expose of this panorama.
Is there a difference?
It is. This is very, very important. I mean, this is really, so to speak, an experience, so to speak. But it reminds you of the reality. It's not real in itself.
Right.
You don't really relate. You can't relate to a picture, no matter how real it is. But you can relate to the panorama. What's the difference? You see exactly the same thing. This difference is not the B'chinas Mitzius. Digging into your inner thought, in your inner seichel. What is the difference? Why are you affected by the panorama and not equally affected by the vision? You're seeing the same thing.
It's been involved,
no? I'm preempting the question. This is not a guessing word. This is do you sense it or you don't sense it? The reason for asking the question is not to produce an answer. The reason for asking the question is to make you think and find it in your own seichel. Do you sense a difference? Do you sense that there is a difference? Number one, do you sense there is a difference? That you yourself would actually react differently, whether you're seeing the panorama or you're seeing a picture.
It was a perfect picture?
Perfect picture.
I don't know.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
So what you're seeing, the panorama, is an extension of a person's own ruchnis. How do you have that experience? Because he has a neshama. Masha Einkein, if you look at a picture, you can be an art critic. You're not totally subsumed. Your identity is not totally subsumed in the picture. You can be a famous art critic. Masha Einkein, when you see something live, merely get subsumed under the experience, because it's the same neshama experience as you've been created.
Moving. Fine. Right. You're explaining something. I'm not looking for explanation. I'm looking for an insight in the reality itself. If we can find a way to focus in on it. This is that Chochmah and Bina. In Chochmah you have to be misboinen. Because misboinen in the reality of the concept, rather than its reasons and its development, its potential.
You're physically there, no?
It's totally different.
Huh?
It's totally different.
Totally different.
Right.
Not necessarily. Have you ever been to a planetarium?
What is the difference?
You're physically there.
Please.
What?
Please. You come once in 17 weeks. You know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You don't.
Let me hear my answer.
No, I don't want to hear the answer. It's not a question of an answer, the question of having an insight and feel what you're talking about. You're here, you're welcome, but you can't mix into this. So shaitan. So what's the difference?
If it's a perfect rendition, I don't know.
You two have the same answer now to give you. Okay.
I don't understand it.
What's the difference? That's what's the difference. Can you express a difference? In what way would you express it? Of course, you can't express a difference. It's extremely subtle.
When you're in the outside and you're looking at it, you're in a reality. You're in reality. It's much bigger than just what you're seeing. It's something. But when you're looking at the picture, you're observing the reality. You're observing something from. You're standing outside of it. There's something. It reminds you of something, but.
Among the things that we pointed out is sight. Can you actually point to something specific that we discussed about sight?
I know the answer is that you're being shown rather than. I'm trying to relate to that.
Stop me if I'm wrong. Please. Again, especially extension of what I said before, but using the idea of sight. When you see something and you're totally involved in the experience, it's not about you anymore. Masha Einkein, like Yesh Misha'ev. When you look at a picture, you're defining it. Well, yes, this represents something outside, but you're not. But in sight, it's not about you anymore. You're in the picture in real life. You're not using to decipher your mental capabilities, what this is, what this not is. You're the thing itself.
Okay, I heard you before.
That's right.
That's right. There are many things that we've discussed in the past that give us a clarity, at least a means to relate to this. First, again, before we go, I'm talking only to those who sense the difference. If I have to prove to them difference, forget it. This is not the arena we're discussing. If you sense a difference, then we can identify it. I pointed out many times. You come into someone's home, and there's a clock on the wall. What do you see when you see the clock on the wall?
The clock on the wall.
What do you see when you see the clock on the wall? Help me out, because I'm surrounded over here with genius.
That someone put it there.
Huh?
That someone put it there.
You see the human being behind it. See the clock on the wall? This is what we say, this is the idiotic of you. Pull me. I'm sorry, this is how we train. I'm not, complaining. When we see the clock on the wall, we see the human being behind it. That's what we see. When is that? When it's a real thing. In a picture, you don't see the human being. You see a rendition of human life. Please understand, Chochmah sees not what it sees. It sees the whole reality behind it. This is why Chochmah relates to the intent. What is this? What's the life behind it? That's what Chochmah sees. Even though all we see is the same thing that you see, that you can capture in a picture. A picture is a camera. The idiot captures a picture. The human being does not capture a picture. To the human being, there's a neshama here. What's a neshama? Neshama is motzu rishei, mamzikol nimtzo. Neshama is a God of reality.
He sees the source. This is what we're saying. In Chochmah, you see the source, where it's coming from.
In Chochmah, you see. I want to rephrase that. It's true, but that's not my point. Not the source where you instead of seeing it, you're seeing the reality behind it. It is true that is a source. On the lower level, it's called the source. But this is not the source. It's not. You're seeing it directly. This is the reality.
So when you're standing at the panorama, is that Chochmah and Bina? Mitlabish and Bina? It's just Chochmah.
You understand the difference? Therefore, this is what we say. In Chochmah, there is all the midas. Because if you see the human being, not easy. That's what you're saying. There's a human life over here that this clock represents. What do you see? You see the whole breadth and depth of human life. There is time. There is duty. Why do we have a clock? Because there is a message. There is an intent. There's what life stands for. So you ever see a cat look at the clock? In Chochmah, there is the entire reality. And this is why there is the midas. But it's not the mitzias. It's there because of the reality itself. Not as identifiable midas and to be spoiled the midas. Okay, I don't want to go too much into it. We're going to lose track. Okay, but this explains this principle. So it gives a very simple motion of the water, that naide. That water are in a state of flux all the time. And then aglidamai, the rakia is aglidamai. The rakia is aglidamai. This is part of the creation of the world, and the Rebbe created. There are different levels. There is first water, and then the rakia is the very same water, because the rakia, as the pasuk says, came right in the middle of the waters and created a separation in waters. I can create a separation in waters. Waters are constantly in the state of flux. This was a rakia.
Rakia here is like earth,
No, it's not earth.
but it's something
It's-
solid.
It's the best way for us to kind of understand the principle is, like we speak all the time, in our level, there are koiches makifim and koiches pnimim. There's Einig Berotzen and there is Chochmah. Rotzen, Einig Berotzen reflects itself in Chochmah. But if you don't have a rakia between them, then there is just confusion.
Then there's just what?
Confusion. This is why, ultimately, Chochmah and Bina and Das and so forth, this process, starting from Chochmah on, the process of the 10 koiches, leads to translating this in action. Action is a totally different world, like we said many times. Okay. There are many different sholim. I'll give you a motion from halacha. The halacha is that hachai noise yatzatzmai. If you carry a living human being who is able to walk, and you carry him where he wants to walk, and then hachai noise yatzatzmai, you're not over on carrying on Shabbos from Rishus HaYochid to Rishus HaRabbi. Hachai noise yatzatzmai. What's the pshat hachai noise yatzatzmai? The principle of carrying on Shabbos, especially from Rishus HaYochid to Rishus HaRabbi, is to make a fundamental change from Rishus HaYochid to Rishus HaRabbi. Which means, while you were in Rishus HaYochid, you were exclusive in Rishus HaYochid. And now you were, and that's why, that's called Akira and Halacha. You picked it up in Rishus HaYochid, and you place it in Rishus HaRabbi, you made a fundamental change. Hachai, when he was in Rishus HaYochid, he was not bound with Rishus HaYochid. He was able to project the Rishus HaRabbi from Rishus HaYochid. Like the Beis Shem says, you can't change his environment on a fundamental level. What happens when it comes down into asiyah, into action? From the Chochmah into action, it has to go through step by step. Now they have to change it, step by step. By projecting it, you can accomplish nothing. Chochmah, because there is that separation, that there's already, so to speak, a perception of space, of Mokim and Zman. then in Bina and so forth, this provides eventually for the whole idea of Asir, of Maisa. That in order to be where you want to be, you have to get there. And you're able to relate to that. Mitzad the Rotzen and Noinik, it's impossible. It's impossible.
This is to explain first Rakia. This is explaining to
This
us.
is repeating the principle of Rakia.
Yeah.
Rakia is a separation. There has to be a separation. Yes, Chochmah is who it in Rotzen, but no, leave the Rotzen alone. This is only, but provides for it. But the reality is in the concept.
Okay, so then this Mayim, Naida, Naidi, this moving waters becoming Rakia is this principle of something very fluid becoming this division, becoming this firmament.
It's separated between, right.
Okay.
There's separation, and it's here Rakia b'soich hamoyim. The Rakia was placed in the midst of the waters, and then waters below and waters above no longer mix, because in the middle there's a Rakia made of water. But this Rakia identifies it in a different way, in a different aspect of the waters. That in the waters there is also something solid, definitive.
How does this relate to Chochmah and Bina?
Chochmah is like the flowing water, and Bina is like the solid water.
So we're saying that this principle that Bina represents is that what allows Chochmah to be a Chochmah as opposed to Oynek and Rotzin? Same principle?
I'm following.
Right now, it just said that the Chochmah is a flowing water which is above the Rakia.
No. Chochmah is below the Rakia. Between Chochmah and Rotzen there is a Rakia.
Okay, but didn't you just say that the Bina is a Rakia and the Chochmah is the flowing water?
The moshel for this, yeah, but it's not. The moshel, why we bring in Chochmah and Maya. Okay, again. Flowing water and solid water. The moshel for what we are looking over here is not the structure of Rakia. Not the structure of Rakia. What does it mean? Chochmah, what's Bina? Is the state of Chochmah? The state of Chochmah is flowing water. The state of Bina is solidified water. The same thing that in the solid water is in the flowing water. That's what we say in Chochmah is also midas, but it's in a flow, in a non-identifiable state. In Bina, it's an identifiable. No, their relationship is not in that. This is not to define the structure between Chochmah and Bina.
Right. It's to understand that the whatever the reason.
The difference
Bina,
between Chochmah and Bina, exactly right.
So, but now you were saying to understand that we were trying to understand the principle of Chochmah versus Koychas HaMakifi.
I've explained what is the union from Rakia. The Rakia was a separation. What is the purpose of separation? The separation is that this total reality, like we say in the Otzon HaNefesh, that I'm where I want to be, should be separate. You should come down at a lower level where this is no longer something that you actually relate to. You can actually, and therefore you come down into Asiya. I've gone through many different things, and that's why. How I said that this permits for ultimately coming down Asiya. That's not to be confused with. I'm confusing everybody, and then I say you should be.
This could be totally off, but kind of the way that I'm. The flowing waters has all the. It's basically infinite different shapes or whatever. Infinite. And when they're solidified, you have a kind of a solid. Are you losing? I keep coming up. It sounds like almost like you're losing this infinity. You're losing the infinity. And you're now taking one view of it. One
that's
view.
Right. That's right. So this is what we are struggling, and we repeat all the time. And you're right. You're losing this infinite possibility, or whatever it is, what's contained. And yet we say Chochmah and Bina are explained in this fashion. One flows right into the other, but Bina is maybe out of the Chochmah. Like you said, in Bina you lose all that fluidity, that versatility. You'll come down to some kind of a conclusion, and to limit it. What needs to be understood, and this is extremely important, and now we can actually focus in on this.
I'm leaving now.
I'll again veer off a little bit. I hope I'm not getting confusing. I just want to explain, because the reason we have a difficulty is because we are in this very lowly world. And what's the lowliness in this world? And I'll put this very, very simple. Very simple. Like we say all the time, loy signoiv, right? Why loy signoiv in the world? Don't violate his rights or his place. Because if you do, he's going to punch in the nose. And it's going to disturb all of peace. There's not a reality in this. There's a common saying in the world, in the street, the worst thing of crime is getting caught. This is not our perception. This is not where we are coming from. Bina does not subscribe to this. Bina says that crime is a crime because it violates the Chochmah. It violates the truth of the Chochmah. But I'm saying not because it violates some insignificant state.
What Koech says that? What Koech says the negative way? It's not Bina. What else is left to say the negative way? That because we get caught. Where does it come from?
Where that comes from?
In the nefesh, where does it come
This is not in. This comes from the Gashmius. This is not in the nefesh.
The goof like to say.
Yeah, the Gashmi. This is what we say. This is what we call instinct. This is what we call the animals also have that. Many times I mentioned the union of Odom Sheini Beis in the Odom, that a human being has his home and you can't violate it. And people come and say, "Oh, the lion also has his turf." Is that the same thing? You see the animalistic, the animal level of division. The human being is not on that level. Okay, so where were we up to? Most of it. So.
Bina says that it's violating the Chochmah.
Okay, yeah, that's the point. Bina has the Oir HaChochmah in it, except it's on the Bina level. Not that Bina does not come to a conclusion because of circumstance. You can't do it this way because this is what's going to happen. No, you can't do it because it's wrong, because it's not the truth. Because Chochmah doesn't agree with it.
Yeah, it's like a limited, but yet it's a limited version of the.
It's right. It's not a limited version. In Bina there is the entire depth and purity of the Chochmah, except in a clearly defined level.
Doesn't that mean it's like one snapshot? It's like one angle of the whole truth? No.
You would sound like you're right, and yet there is an objection to that, because the principle. Okay, wait a second. Do I have everybody with me? The reason there is that one snapshot is not because Bina is limiting anything. It is because the whole Chochmah and everything is representing a Neshama truth. A reality. And truth. Translates itself at every level.
At every level. And the Bina is not attached to that one picture. It just gets that for the moment.
That's right. Exactly.
This is the Soich HaMayim.
That's right.
Okay.
It translates itself at every level. Think about this. I'm going to give you an example. A little shocking in our world. Right? You can carry on Shabbos a bundle of rocks from one corner of the house to another corner of the house. It's not the right thing to do. But nothing happened. You moved your furniture around. You set up your whole house. Not very nice to do. But you haven't violated the Shabbos. You carry a handkerchief in your pocket from the house into the street, and you know what happens? Rahman is on skila. You understand what I'm saying?
Skila.
Skila for carrying a handkerchief. How do you justify it? How do you justify it? It doesn't make any sense at all. You know. Can't justify it in the world. The world is a godly creation. It has a godly element in it. The division between Shulchan Yochel and Shulchan Rabbim is a godly division. It's not your convenience. Like we've spoken about in the past many times. How do you divide Shulchan Yochel and Shulchan Rabbim? You have a little string of 10 tefachim high. That makes it a Shulchan Yochel. Nothing. Because it's part of the godly effect in the definition of world. This is a broader speech and broader discussion and so forth. We just want to point out the very oddity of this from our perspective, the way we understand things, we live in the world. Say, what did he do?
Pretty odd.
What did he do? Bina understands it. Because Bina sees what Chochmah shows it. And Chochmah clearly sees that the reason there is a Shulchan Yochel and Shulchan Rabbim is not because we conveniently divided our property, because the Eibishter had given the world to the human being. And he had defined there is the human turf, the human area, and then there is a specific, and then there is a general. Open. The fact, like going back to what we speak all the time, the fact that a human being can own property is not a humanly created phenomenon. You understand? This is where it's all coming from. It's not a conventional thing. This is part of the creation of the world. This is the Eibishter created, put, I mentioned later all the time, Onochi Barosi Oretz, Odom Onocha Sisi Oretz, Odom Allah Barosi, I created, I made the earth, and on the earth I put a human being. That is the creation. and therefore the 10th fucking wall, or even a similus of a wall, is a wall. It divides the shoes. To the extent that, in the Midbar, the first example of that is in the Midbar. They found a man gathering wood in the Midbar. Became a whole disturbance in the community. Look at this, look what he's doing. They grab him, bring him to Moshe. And Moshe said, wait, I don't know what to do with him. I'll ask Hashem what to do. As we've been speaking lately, you have to understand, we're not walking on the earth, we're walking in Hashem's domain. If you really want to put it in the perspective, that's exactly what it is. On the earth, makes no difference. You can crawl on all fours, that's gesundheit. But if you want to be a human being, you're in a different arena. Personally, I don't know what this class is about, but I think we can put things in perspective a little bit. Because we say all the time potential, and I explain to them, no, it's not potential. What's the difference? To understand Hasidus, to understand Torah in general, to understand Torah, and Hasidus, which is the pnimis of Torah, we have to have one perspective clear. There is nothing but that which the Rebbe is giving at this moment. Just as when you come to somebody's home, you're a guest in somebody's home. There's a chair there. The chair is prepared for you to sit down. Is this your chair?
It's David's just chair.
Is this your chair?
Oh, the guest.
The guest? You come into this person's home, and there are chairs, and you say, no, I don't think it should be set up this way. This is how you should be set up. You're out of your mind? Why? He invited me. He gave me he told me to sit down over here. I'm sitting the way I think I'd be comfortable. Sir, it's not your domain. You have to find comfort in his domain. That's exactly what it is. You want to live in the world, you have to be comfortable. Find comfort in Hashem's domain. That's where you find comfort. You want to find comfort in the world domain? Gesundheit. You can all, as I said, crawl on all fours. You want to maintain your human dignity. And then on top of it have mitzvahs from Hashem, you have to conform to his domain. Hashem gave Eden mitzvahs, Torah mitzvahs. After Eden have given up completely their individuality, so to speak, their world mitzvahs. Then he recreated them. And they said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we explained it Na'aseh v'nishma many times. It's the most profound statement they ever made. Na'aseh v'nishma means there is no world but that which Hashem tells me exists. So it's incumbent upon us, the demand by us is that we should not only act this way, but we understand it, especially in Chassidus. Really understand it. How can we understand it? Because we have that. We have the neshama really understands it. We have to bring it down from from the Neshama into Kirchma Kifim, into Seichel, into Chochmah, Bina, and all the way down to Beis.
To remain on this call, press 1.
Man, tell her that you're through? No?
Yeah.
I know it's. Oh, it's on my phone.
I can hang it up. Done. Done.
She's very patient.
Yeah.
Ken, I know you, I mean, listen, what you have written up for this class. It's an important class, but it's like the neither by the neither. All right, look, let's see if we can do something on a solid basis over here. Right on top of page Nun Vov. Chochmah Bina. The difference in Chochmah like this. Okay, you give the muscle of the fetus and all that. So the same thing as a fetus. Before, during the first 40 days, it's still possible to change, but philo, that it should change from one, say, from a zocher to a nekeva or vice versa. And after that 40 is not possible. During the 40 days, it's also a zocher or a nekeva, but it's not yet solidified. And this is how it's Chochmah Bina. The Chochmah Ein and Mitzias Adar. In the Chochmah, all the inyonim, all the midas are not the Mitzias, and this is why it's there, but it's not something that actually occupies space, and it can change. Ukeneda, and is known the Yinyan Mayim Barokia. Mayim, water, and Rokia is the firmament. The Mayo, Naidi. The waters are fluid, and they're in constant state of fluidity and move. The Rokia is Agli the Mayo. The key is where the waters have solidified. Even though Rokia is also of Mayim, but this is where the content of the Mayim have been identified in a solid manner. The Hainu, which is to say, the Haskol, look, Meshi be Chochmah, that the Haskol, as it is at the state of Chochmah, it is possible to redirect it. B'chol Masha Yirtze, to any direction, into any into any sense of Choch, of Chesed, of Gvura, the leaning that he wants. But then, when it is in the state that it is, when it came down to Bina B'Hasoga Mamush, in true comprehension, it was fully defined. It is not possible to redirect it. It's already, the seichel has already been solidly defined, and whatever that seichel leads to, this is what it is. In terms of chesed and gvura and things like that. As it's explained in the Siddur with the Chidus, on the Posik Halu Kei B'Kodesh. That's not all. The Hagam, the whole Seichel. Although that in truth, every Seichel, Gam K'mei Shebo B'Hasogo, bebchinas tam v'svara. Even after the seichel come down in hasoga. What does hasoga mean? Hasoga does not only mean that I know the concept, but bebchinas tam v'svara, I made sense of it. And I explain how come this turns out to be like this and this turns out to be like this. I identify the differences between the various circumstances and how the halacha concludes in each circumstance different. This is mamish hasecha b'china hasoga, and it's now solidly defined. Nevertheless, it is still possible to redirect it. This same hasoga, even though it's already betam svara, it is possible to redirect it l'schus v'lachev. L'schus means to vindicate, and l'chev means to a guilt state.
So even in Bina, there's some fluidity.
Even though Bina has solidity, but every seichel it is possible after l'hatesha, because that's what seichel is. After l'hatesha. After we finish the senior, we'll try to come back and say, okay, what is this about? In other words, what the Rebbe is going to show us and explain to us, that yes, we have defined Chochmah and Bina from the perspective that Chochmah is Maya, is Naide, and Bina is like Rokia, and it is Agrido Maya. It's not that simple. But as long as it is Seichel, it can be varied. It can vary. So this is going over here. I just want to point out an interesting way of beginning to understand this. Like we have discussed right in the beginning of today's discussion, that there is a difference between seeing the reality itself or seeing a replica, a picture of it. Even though the picture represents it in a very real way, still the reality is still missing. And therefore, the picture allows you to project the reality in different ways. Just to demonstrate, to say it from halachic perspective. We have a Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin means a Rabbonim, 23 of Sanhedrin, 23 Chachomim who sat in on a case, on a serious case. They debated it to its core. The serious case means it's a case of capital punishment. In that day when they debated, they were never allowed to eat breakfast. They didn't go to sleep that night. They started it the night before. And then overnight they sat up and debated them individually. Then they came back in the morning to issue a verdict. They issue a verdict. If the verdict is negative, that this man has to be capitally punished, So they take him out right away, the Beis skill, bring him out to the Beis where that is going to be performed, executed. As he's being taken out, there were horsemen coming along. And there are various stations on the way. As they're walking, any doubt, any question that is brought up regarding the verdict, there is a whole provision that it should be able to be brought back into court with all kinds of with signals and so forth, so that it cannot be permitted with signals from a distance, and then ultimately there is the horsemen that bring it back to the Beis. In other words, it has been solid away, it has been resolved. As long as it's in Seichel, it's never resolved. In halacha, there are interesting things. There's a psak din, halacha, it says this is what the halacha is. There's a difference whether the Beis said halacha or halacha l'maisa. Can you make a difference in that? Halacha means that this is the halacha. Halacha l'maisa means this is what you should actually do. What's the difference? If the person says do, it's a different level of decision. And when they say it's halach, and so to speak, for a Rav, the real criterion for a Rav is that he's learning, he looks for places that tell him about halacha l'maisa, not halacha. This is why Rabbonim must be very deeply steeped in Shalas Utshuvas. They learn Shulchan Aruch when in Shalas Utshuvas. Shulchan Aruch deals with all these different questions. The answer is Shulchan Aruch deals with halacha. Shalas Utshuvas deal with a practical question, where the Rav answered, do it. And a Rav who is worthy of his title does not pass him from Shulchan Aruch. Not from Shulchan Aruch, but yet a Gemara. Asking from Shalas Utshuvas. Shalas Utshuvas say halacha l'maisa. Nowadays, and Shalas Utshuvas are rampant all over the place. Okay, so this will continue, Mr. Shimon.
You just developed this halacha, the maisa, after saying the picture.
What?
You said the picture is missing. In the picture, reality is missing, and then after that you said something like reality could be different. There could be different realities behind the picture. You said reality is missing, and then after that you said
the picture could be understood in different ways, right?
Yeah.
Two different things. What we are saying, what I'm saying, just now I said that even the picture itself, after it's solid, can be understood in different ways, even though it's solidified already. But when you look at the picture, you don't even see the reality behind it. Altogether, you don't see the same thing. From a picture, you can't pass it anything. Nobody in his right mind is going to pass from a picture, because it's not a real thing. You understand what I'm saying?
na na